Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm here with Jacob and we're going to be talking about the movie A Quiet Place. So this is the first movie review on this channel. The purpose of these movie reviews is going to be talking about movies that might get a little bit less advertisement or are generally less likely to be box office hits, you know, compared to other movies.
Plus we're huge fans of thriller horror genre, so...
Yeah, so we were excited for this one.
Yes, absolutely.
So one of the things that I think we were mainly worried about is that a lot of the horror thriller movies we've seen lately have been terrible disappointments or have been executed terribly, have no character development, no themes whatsoever. So here we were really looking forward to a movie that was potentially all of that in a positive way.
Yeah, and I'd like to first off say that I really enjoyed the movie. I'd recommend it to anyone because it's not just a horror thriller. I think it's much more because of those reasons, that it has a lot of these elements that make for just a good movie in general.
So the movie, I'm assuming you've watched the movie, but the two main actors here are Emily Blunt and John Krasinski. John Krasinski was actually also the director,
And
which
writers,
which was great because obviously like I didn't expect that whatsoever, and he did a great job of both in the acting and the directing and the writing.
Yeah, I was worried when I first saw him in this movie that it was going to take away the illusion that I'm seeing Jim Halpert, you know, because it's such a big role in The Office, and he has to separate himself with that, and I think his performance did just that, so I was very happy to see that. So
yeah, one of the things that I think was important in this movie was character development. So when I say that, I think that in a lot of horror movies and thrillers we see these days, the characters are very flat and stereotypical. Like there's the popular girl, there's the cheerleader, there's all these stereotypes that are very one-dimensional, whereas here I think that the characters were all their own people. And I say that specifically because I know that we keep coming back to this, but identity politics. So like the daughter is deaf, right? And that could have been her entire character. Just like, oh, she's the deaf girl, that's it. But there was so much more. There was the grief of losing her brother, which she felt guilty about. There was also the fact that her father kept trying to
cure her deafness.
Yeah, like remaking those earpieces, which ended up being what defeated those creatures or whatever, helped them defeat those creatures. So so there was a solid character there behind just being deaf, which I thought was great.
I think that's great too. And she did a great job. The actress did a great job. She's actually deaf in real life, and John Krasinski actually pushed to have a deaf actress. Yeah, so that was good on him. Another
thing that I think was worked really well was the theme of grief. Yeah. So at the beginning of the movie, obviously, the little brother dies, which, as I said, has an effect on the sister because she feels guilty, and then she has kind of like this anger almost towards her dad because she thinks that he also sees her as guilty of that.
Yeah. I think they all felt guilty and they kind of shared it, you know, but I think that's the burden of grief, is you're constantly blaming yourself. And even the mother in one scene was like, I should have been holding him, and you know, why was he in the back? And not like in between the parents. And obviously this movie's a lot about family and parenthood too, which is great because it's, like we said, it has a bunch of layers. So they say, you know, it's our job to protect these kids, and then while one of their kids is blaming herself too, so it's got a very tense dynamic in that family, and I think it paid off, especially with the quietness of the movie.
Yeah.
So you want to get to that, or you have more to?
Yeah, the only other thing I really wanted to make a point about was the emotional investment here. So I think that the grief worked well in the sense that it wasn't just the theme of grief and you see everyone sad, but because of how the characters were presented and because of what was happening, you were invested in that. So there was a point where both Jacob and I almost felt like crying.
Nearly cried.
Exactly, which only happened to me when Marissa dies in the OC. Never cried at any other thing other than that. So that was kind of a big deal that I almost wanted to cry. Whatever, I relate, okay? Anyways, so there is this emotional investment where you actually care.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's hard in horror movies. A lot of times, you know, like someone dies and I'm like, well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I did not expect that. And I was like, damn it, Jim Halpert. Damn it. You're making me cry here.
Yeah.
Why you gotta write that?
Yeah, honestly, it was
it was good.
It was an all-around really great movie. I would say that there's nothing I really deemed as lacking there. However, since this is a critique channel, we have to give some kind of, not necessarily a critique as much as something we would have maybe liked to see, but not something that took away from the movie, right? These are just extra things according to our preferences. So one of the things that I would have liked to see is that there are multiple moments where they say day X, day Y, whatever. I would have liked to see like day 0 or day 1, like either before whatever happened or the day it happened. So we had a little bit more of an explanation of the context. Like, are these creatures government made? Are they aliens? Like, where did this come from and what happened?
I know that when I buy this on DVD or when I rent it on DVD, I'm gonna have to do freeze frames and read all those newspaper articles that are on the wall in the movie. So I'm gonna be like, oh, right, okay. That would've been cool.
Yeah, because one of the things you see in one of the first scenes is like those posters of all those missing people,
children,
right?
Missing people, yeah.
So you kind of get an idea that something started happening gradually, but you're still not sure of what exactly happened, which I think would have been a cool thing to see, but again, it doesn't really detract from the movie.
Yeah, you can see how it's like not relevant to the story, but still.
You wonder.
You wonder, yeah. And my criticism is they know these creatures have an acute sense of sound, and no one thought to use a nails on chalkboard to like piss these guys off. Or I mean, it's like tours tend to have their gimmick, and this was theirs on this one, but without that gimmick we wouldn't have had the story. So in a sense it's a kind of just a nitpicky kind of thing right there. So
I think part of that too was that those like monsters or whatever you want to call them were very fleeting. Like every time you'd see them and they were gone. So I feel like in my head the reason that they didn't really understand or didn't really know what to do with it is that everything was kind of supposed on the few instances where you see them.
Right.
Because contrary to maybe in other movies, these monsters appear and disappear. You never see them just roaming, right?
Yeah.
So it would be hard to even test, what it is that works until you're confronted with them. But it is gimmicky, but I just feel like you can excuse it with the kind of fleetingness of...
Yeah, I can excuse it because I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought the ending scene was awesome. So.
Yeah, the ending scene was badass.
So the movie's called The Quiet Place, and so we want to talk about how that affected the movie. And I thought it was a great tool for building suspense and tension. So much so that a single nail sticking out of a staircase gave me a sense of anxiety and just that, impending doom feeling. And you're just like, oh no.
Yeah, I think that one interesting thing about the silence on me as a viewer rather than like the effect it has inside the movie is that you can almost, like, I could feel my heart beating. I could feel my anxiety more entirely. Because when there's noise, it's a little bit easier to get stuck in the movie. But there, you see these people communicating, and you can just, like, hear your heart beating really fast. So I feel like the quietness in the movie obviously works, but even just, like, the quietness in the movie theater while you're watching it makes it a lot more intense than I'd say a regular movie.
You could hear a pin drop in that theater. And, like, I was hearing mainly, like, the recliners, like, I was like, shut up!
Yeah. And I think that was also, it speaks volumes on the actors because it takes really great actors to be silent and use their body and still exude that kind of emotion, both like within themselves and then within who's watching, right?
Yeah, and I think, obviously Krasinski has a lot of experience with facial expressions from The Office.
Yeah. Yeah. Camera zoom in. Yeah, so I definitely think that the quietness worked in a really good way, and I feel like it could have easily gone south, which is, I think, what makes me appreciate it more, that I can see all these ways in which this could have been cheesy and, like, cringy. But I think that it was really innovative, and one movie that we thought it was kind of similar to was Signs, which we both love.
Signs, I would compare it to a couple movies. Yeah, Signs was one of them. That one movie, Don't Breathe.
Yeah, I thought of that one too.
Very similar. And obviously, Get Out, in terms of, tension. I think that it was a great modern horror thriller.
So, what would you give it out of 10?
I would give it, I would say like a 8.7 to a 9.
Yeah, I was thinking something around the 9 kind of ballpark. Obviously, because like we said, we have those preferences of things we might want to see.
Yeah.
Okay guys, anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get into the fan art.